My name is Oscar West, and I am part of the Celtic Piping Club on the committee. And yeah, I'm here going to be the converser. I'm not sure if that's the quite the right word, the conversationalist with Nick today. And just before we start, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which this particular meeting takes place. Uh, for us here, it's the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, and we pay our respects to their elders past and present. And as this is an online meeting, do feel free to write the traditional name of the land that you're joining us from today. Um, where to start? Well, first of all, we're online. It's we weren't sure how this whole thing was going to go, not being able to plan too well. Whether or not we'd be able to meet up in person. And I suppose things are starting to come back, obviously, which is very exciting. And I was able to talk to Nick over the phone last week while I was hurrying to the Last Jar, which has only just got back to doing Irish sessions, and which is, of course, our um, kind of HQ when it comes to meetings. That's probably where we would have had Nick in person, and hopefully will in the future, because from what I can gather, you're a very, very nice person and a brilliant musician. Two things that don't always go together. No, they usually do, I think, in the folk world.
Well, in
Yeah.
the past, I've been one or the other.
Yeah, you got to choose one, right? Yeah, pick your next adventure. But yeah, it's a real pleasure. I've only joined the committee recently, but we've had a few artists through uh, with the Boxwood Festival collaboration with Chris Norman, and this is, I guess, kind of inspired by that, gathering a group of like-minded nutcases to listen to a fellow, nutcase who's made it work in the real world, and try to pick up a bit of your magic dust. Yes, I haven't really slept much because of this video I've been editing. So if I do say weird things, please just write in the comments, rain and delete. But without further ado, Nick, I want to welcome you to our Zoom meeting, and also everyone who's arrived here on your day. Your sort of all kinds of weather. It's very humid here, and as we know, that has a big impact on your instruments. I didn't know. I mean, I've got heaps of questions for you, but I thought we'll just start. If you wanted to, what would be the first thing you told us about yourself? And if you could, your sort of aha moment when it came to finding the pipes as an instrument.
Oh, that's a great question. I'd just like to say, first off, thank you for a great introduction, Oscar, and thanks to the Celtic Piping Club for having me. It's a great honour to be invited along to be part of this event. The magic moment I realised I wanted to be a piper. Well, I was quite young. When I was growing up, I don't have much of an Irish background, so my family was fairly strong on the Scottish culture side of things. So we did piping and Highland dancing, and went to Gaelic lessons and stuff as kids. And I think there was a little bit of Irish music around on like some old records, like some chieftains and stuff, but I never really gave it too much attention. And I was actually at a piping and dancing camp for the Royal Caledonian Society of South Australia Pipes and Drums, and I must have been 12 or 13 years old. And we had a ceilidh one night, and Jack Brennan was the kind of guest musician. So he played this gig, and it was the first time I saw the pipes up close, and I just lost my mind. And I didn't, have the maturity or the courage to go and speak to him in person then. But my mother knew someone that knew him, and she contacted him and started organising lessons for me. And when I was 13, started learning to whistle with Jack, in addition to my Scottish piping I was doing, Highland piping. And so I persevered with the whistle for a long time, because getting a set of pipes in Australia at that point, I mean, it's still hard, but what's it now? Like $12 25 years ago, it was like really difficult. So I hung in there till I was 18. And I got a set of pipes for my birthday. And I think my parents actually waited a long time just to make sure I was serious. So I kind of had to campaign for about 7 or 8 years before they coughed up the money and got me my first half set from Ian Mackenzie in the Blue Mountains. That was my first set. Yeah.
That's absolutely fantastic. Yeah, that the scarcity of the instrument is and your desire to overcome it and persevere, because you could have lost interest, I suppose. But it's clear you had a bit of a calling, and
Well, I mean, I think a friend of mine he's a guitar teacher. He always used to talk about how, like, you don't choose an instrument, it chooses you.
yeah,
And I was chosen, like it or not. I think the pipes chose me. So that was that. I was sick in the head from the beginning.
absolutely. Oh my goodness! And it struck me while you're talking, when we mention we don't say, so, oh yes, he plays the pipes. We say, oh, he's a piper or she's a
Yeah.
piper, as opposed to a trumpet player, or she plays the piano. It's almost, there's a bit of identity in it, and you sort of. I was going to progress into what's your kind of identity in Australia as a piper. It's a kind of broad question, but I wonder if you have any thoughts.
Well, I think it's a great question. I've given that a lot of thought over the last 20 odd years. Because, look, I mean, playing ethnic music in like outside of its country of origins, even if it's within a diaspora, is a strange thing, because I think when you're young, when you're starting out, you really strive to stay very, very true to the tradition. You pick a style within the tradition. I work really hard to play like Jack Brennan. Like he's my teacher, and that was the piping I had in front of me. So it's very hard to play like that. And look, Jack's got his own amazing style that he's developed himself. So already, even though he's stayed very, very true to a particular style of piping, I think, already he was a little bit different because of the tyranny of distance, And so, I mean, and for my generation, when he was playing off, learning off records.
Right.
Thankfully, I was learning off CDs, so I could skip. I could get bars, and then I think when I was about in my early 20s, YouTube came. Then I could see what people were doing. So I worked really hard for, I think, 10 or 12 years to try and emulate a really traditional sound, like a really traditional Irish kind. I wanted to sound, because it's the Irish pipes playing Irish music. It should sound Irish, whatever that means, and I'm not sure it means anything in particular. And then I think maybe when I was about 30, I gave up trying to sound traditional, and thought, well, I'm not an Irish person living in Ireland, so
Right.
and my cultural heritage isn't particularly connected to Ireland. It's connected to another place next door, but what does that mean, and what does this music mean here for me? And so I think I just kind of went, oh, well, I'll just try and play like me, and I think that's the luxury we have, being so far away from the geographical epicenter of the music, is that you've kind of got one must remain faithful to the heart of the tradition, but because we're kind of like the bastard children of the British Empire, you've got a little bit more license, I think, to do what you like, and maybe push a few boundaries. I don't know. I think also that sense of the Australian artist in particular being the bastard child, you know, like the unwanteds that were shipped off here or expelled or cleared. There's a sense in our artistic endeavours of like, hey, look at me, to the parent cultures over there. Yeah, sorry, that's a long-winded answer, but yeah, it's a subject I've given a lot of thought to.
Absolutely. And I can tell you have. It's just in the way you teach as well. There's an awareness of, of what, and it's almost something that some people can be kind of almost embarrassed about. Maybe that's not the right word, but I've met people who they're so entrenched in this music, but it's from another place, and they're kind of embarrassed they don't have the accent. You know, when you meet a piper and they've got a thick Northern Irish accent, you go, oh, well, that explains everything, you know. Whereas you hear an Australian accent. I grew up in New Zealand, and it's the same there. It's kind of this, well, we'll get as close as we can to the authenticity of the thing.
Oh, look,
But
I'm sure when I was playing in Ireland and went in like, you know, wrecked sessions, probably people heard me speak and went, oh, that explains everything.
for sure, it goes both ways, doesn't it? Yeah, and then you said, at age 30, a kind of there's a lovely musician I've followed for years, just a very Andrew Bird. He plays the violin and the guitar and everything, and I was always amazed by his music. But there was a little interview with him that really caught me, and there's a quote from him saying, um, about at the age of 27, he kind of he'd finished his apprenticeship to his future self, something like that. And it's always struck me the idea of like, yeah, there's a bit you do, and then you sort of figure out where the rest of it goes. So you're at the moment, I guess, still on that journey, figuring out who is Nick Martin and what's his piping,
Well,
and what does
it'll
it
never,
mean?
you know,
No, no.
I'll evolve and the piping will evolve. So
Yeah.
it's life's work. It's wonderful.
Well, it's a great, not that what I said, but what you were saying before is about the innovations with the instrument and the freedom to do so. And I know that you, with your various bands, have been you've really pushed the innovations with the instrument. Um, and the instrument itself it's kind of, it was an innovation in the 1800s, and it's still kind of the most fantastical contraption. Um, yeah, how I'm not sure where the question goes, but yeah, what are your thoughts on the innovations that you've made with the instrument, and where the instrument's going?
Well, I mean, the boundary pushing I think I've done has been largely contextual, rather than it's been contextual. I've tried. I mean, lots of people since the revival in the 60s, you know, since Na Píobairí Uilleann was kind of founded and the revival began, you know, from the 70s. Well, I reckon really starting with Paddy Maloney's involvement with Celtic and Shauna Reardon, that new context for the music, for Irish music in general, and the new context for the pipes specifically. And then the bands like the Bothy Band and Lunaster in the 90s and Moving Hearts in the 80s. The innovations have been contextual, but it's always been, for the most part, the music, like the traditional music in a new context. And I was working towards, a number of years ago, I sort of abandoned this project, but I will revisit it. There's plans to revisit it. I was taking that instrument out of that musical traditional context, as well as the ensemble type context. So yeah, I mean, working with jazz musicians and not playing tunes, like not really playing, like, I mean, the similar stuff to like like Cuivan O'Rahilly has done with fiddle playing. You know, I mean, I remember reading a quote from him once that, you know, he believed himself to be a fiddle player that just decided to stop playing tunes. And I think, you know, that like freeing yourself from that, you know, in one part of your work. I mean, I love traditional music, like never stop playing it. But there was a part of me that wanted to kind of go over here and see what sounds I could make with it, really, and like how they worked with other, you know, in a different context. And yeah, I mean, like, you know, I mean, Jerry O'Sullivan, great poet from America, he's played some Baroque stuff with a chamber orchestra, and
Incredible, yeah.
And that works. But I was playing more kind of jazz, art music, really, yeah, contemporary art music, and using the instrument like trying to get human vocal sounds out of it specifically, rather than musical sounds, if that makes sense. Yeah.
And it does do that. We know it can. So exploring that is you know, it does deeply touch people, and we know it does almost. It's, I'm not sure, but yeah, it's not like a competition between the Highland pipes and the Uilleann pipes, because they both are, you know, like heart wrenching instruments. There are people who go, I don't know what it is, but I'm just so drawn to it. So there's definitely a soul in them, I'd say. And now, going back on the innovations and getting sounds out of it, you've also mentioned the traveling pipers, Patsy Tui, and even like contemporary kind of characters, not characters, real people like Blackie O'Connell, who kind of embody that, you know, and even, you know, Paddy Keenan, well, you know, he came from a traveling family, and he's, you know, that's where his piping came from, and it's incredible. You yourself have been literally a traveling piper in one of the most expansive landscapes, and afar, of course.
One sense, you know, yeah, I'm traveling
Yeah.
in a kind of literal sense, not in a cultural sense. But I think
No.
it was a valuable experience. I mean, I was touring for a long time, and I was living in driving around in my home for a couple of years, and playing for my, you know, singing for my supper, so to speak.
For sure.
And look, it was great. It gave me a really, because I've because of Jack Brennan's influence and his influences on his life, his piping, like you know, Finbar Fury and Martin Nolan, you know, people are playing in that travelling style. But I think that's the path I went down for a long time, really trying to play like in that travelling piper style. I don't think my playing is very much like in that style. It's something else. But I think living on the road and trying to like sing for my supper, I think has given me a sense of part of what it is like, what it would be like to, you know, to be in the midst of that that culture, and also the influence that it has on people's playing. You know, if you're busking, you're short a few bob between gigs, and you have to stop on the side of the road to busk. Play very differently to the way you play on stage, and that's the theory about where the part of the travelling style came from. Is that it was you know, they were making money playing at fairs, so it's a bit it's loud and it's a bit flashy and
Yes.
strident sort of a style of playing, because it's supposed to grab your attention.
Because they might only have it for a short time, so you may as well show off all of the possibilities in a short, you know, within as much tune as you can. Yeah. Yeah. That's a really good point about how an audience shapes a performance, and the pipes being kind of a extraordinary instrument to see performed. And I'm sure you've had that question: where is the air coming from, and how does it come out? Um, oh, there's a little electric motor around the back. You know, yeah. Can I ever go? No, but they are. It's an instrument that seems to be designed to draw people in. Yeah, what part of your playing sort of goes, let's celebrate the instrument, or let's celebrate the music? I suppose. Uh, yeah. How much of the tune is the instrument almost? Obviously, you're exploring different music with it as well. And it is versatile. That's not really a question. I think I'm just, but
I can speak to what you've said though, in that in those experiments, you know, trying to change the context. I mean, I learned a lot about my own musicality in that, like having grown up so much within like both the Highland piping tradition and the Irish traditional music tradition, and Uilleann piping, and push the beel in mouth music, and when I was a child, like I can't escape the idiom. You know, like I'm trying to play more contemporary art music, but sort of I kind of do, but it really references my the cultural context of the music that's in me, which is the music that was around me as a child, which is like piping. You know, like specifically, I was really surprised, specifically Scottish piping. So like, you know, when I was composing stuff with this band, like for the Uilleann pipes, it didn't sound like Irish music. Like the structures of the melodies were like Highland piping, you know, like Píobairí, and that's what's coming out of me. So I found that quite interesting.
Wow.
Even though I've spent more time in my life playing Irish music than I have playing, you know, Highland pipes or playing other, like Scottish tunes on other instruments. Like that seems to be what seeps out. So yeah, I don't know what to make of that.
Absolutely. No, it's that's fantastic. It's sort of an ongoing sort of fascination, isn't it? I wondered what does your wife think of the pipes, and what is your musical relationship in the home?
Oh look, my wife loves the pipes. Yeah.
I suppose that's quite important, isn't it?
Yeah, look, she's a professional musician as well, but
Yes.
trad music isn't her bag at all. You know, like she doesn't do any of it. She sings like funk soul, and
Wow.
so she's coming from a completely different musical background, which, like, you know, it's great because we talk about the connections and differences, and like there's a wide variety of music going on in the house anyway. And we have no musical relationship, which is, I think that's wonderful. You know, I'm doing my thing, and we don't really meet musically. So I mean, I think that's a hard bridge to cross too. Those two styles is a very hard bridge to cross. Yeah,
I suppose so. Yeah. Fantastic to hear that, and it sounds like there's obviously a lot of a huge variety of music in your house, and that your own personal relationship with music is really broad, and I think that's just fantastic. Because yes, most people would have the expectation, like we talked about, if you just go down one route. When also in the 1800s they were O'Farrell was writing dance pieces for pantomimes, and people were lapping it up, and they were playing opera pieces and popular music. It really was it's an instrument that is capable of so much, and why shouldn't it? It's already proven itself, and it continues to do so.
Well, I mean, like when you think about it, in the 18th century, it was a instrument. You know, at its inception, it was an instrument of the gentry. It was very expensive, and
Yes.
it was played in the big houses, and it was also, you know, it was used. I'm sure everyone knows most of this stuff already, but, you know, like where it was, because it was cheaper than an organ. The clergy played it in church because you could accompany.
Oh yeah.
You know, and it's only with that kind of breakdown of it seems anyway, so a breakdown of the elites, or sections of the elites in that society, that meant that you know, the piping sort of was come to the masses, you know, eventually. And so yeah, I mean, the instrument's designed to play kind of Baroque music on it, really.
Naturally, yeah. That's great so far. I realize I'll stop ranting for a bit, and maybe I'll open up the floor for some questions for Nick. And I think the system, you can just put up your hand with the little button if you've got a question, and you'll come to the front of the queue if anything sparked your interest of what we've spoken about so far. What was the about being on the stage. I think maybe that's interesting to some of. I remember a friend of mine said she'd like to get on in front of the microphone more, or up on the stage more. And we were talking. I mean, I used to play for a big theatre, and I played the big pipes, but I was always worried they were going to not perform, and I would as long as they kicked off and it was going, I was like, oh, thank goodness, you know. But it was just the moments before, and you know, we talked about how the pressures of performance, you know, they're like a hard, um, yeah, trial by fire. I don't know if you've got any sort of advice for people as we're coming out of lockdowns, and maybe we're gonna change the way we live and pipe by getting in front of people a bit more. Yeah,
Well, I think it's an easy solution for Highland pipers, because my advice is just breathe.
yeah,
Very easy to hold your breath when you're pumping a bellows. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like I feel strange playing in front of. I just ran this class, and I haven't played in front of anyone for over 12 months, I think. And yeah, it was like very nerve-wracking just to do a workshop, which, you know, you're just playing little sections of tunes. It's not a performance or anything. Yeah.
and then that silence that follows almost every.
With Zoom, and you're watching everyone. Yeah, it's I mean, that's thankfully I'm at home, you know, like, so I don't feel as exposed, and I can always just turn it all off.
Yes, terminate. No, absolutely. But rest assured, we were all smiling and clapping our thighs while we're listening to you. And yeah, definitely. Today's been a great excuse to get the pipes out, and it's great to see everyone who's actually shown up today. And the rain is just coming here, so we're not as far away as we think. I'm sure it's all the same cloud. We've probably got like another sort of 5 minutes or so. So yeah, if there are any questions, this would be the 5 to 10 minutes, I suppose, isn't it? Or is there any chance we might get a tune out of you, Nick? For
Absolutely, I can play some music for you if you want. Yeah.
oh, look, I think that'd be brilliant. And if you play something or a tune or two, and then maybe we'll still have time for some questions if something comes to us while we're listening. Yeah.
Great. Well, I'll play something. I might. It's been a long time since I've performed for anyone. I'll keep it simple, and I think I'll play some jigs. I'll play Caliph and Ergit and Hadim and the Fiddler, a slip jig, Hadim and the Fiddler. I think we'll see what happens in the second tune. I don't normally play them together, so I might just revert to habit and play something else. But yeah, bear with me. I'll just make sure everything's in tune. Oh, and my bag's been leaking lately, so it's literally held together with glue. So if anything falls off, apologies.
Oh, fantastic. That was wicked.
Thank you.
That was kick ass, Nick. Yeah. Wow. Even through the little speakers and stuff, and
Exactly.
no, it sounded great, and all those techniques came
I got
through.
a bit of an adrenaline rush from playing in front of humans. Well, that was a strange experience.
Oh, it's funny that, isn't it? It's like a whole different platform doing it online with but we loved that, and it was all going swell. Absolutely, you could hear the drones and everything. So we just can't wait to hear you in person again, and I hope that happens soon. Now we've coaxed you out of the out of what is it, piping exile into back along the road to hell, and reeds and leaking bellows and glued bags. Jeff was asking, when's the next album out?
Oh, I haven't got any plans for anything for a long time. I haven't put anything out since 2013. It's been a long break, so yeah, who knows? I think I'll start playing some actually playing live again for a little while and get used to it. I think about getting back to the studio.
Absolutely. Oh, I'm glad that we could enjoy your performance, and yeah, we're sort of at this. We can still take questions, and if you want to write them, I can be your spokesperson if people are shy. I don't know why you would be with this very nice man we've got with us.
It's like a real podcast.
Or you could ask us questions, Nick. No. Oh yes. So do tell us about that fix you did with the bag.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the post being what it is, and the borders being what they are, like a poorly functioning instrument for a long time, and I was trying to figure out where it was coming from. I checked all the pads on the regulator keys, and I checked everything for cracks, and I thought I must be the bag. I'm always loath to like dunk the bag in a bath full of water. And then I did actually do this one day, and then there was just bubbles coming out from the whole seam on the bag. And by virtue of the way this instrument's set up, I can't just buy a bag off the shelf, like order one and tie this instrument in. It has to be bolted in the way this is designed. So I spoke to Jack. He's I think he's in the midst of making me a new bag and a new drone, like a new main stock. But my only solution at short notice was I'm a shearer by trade, so I used latex glue to affix my emery papers to my grinder to sharpen my combs and cutters, and I thought this has got to work. So it was a bit of a punt. Tipped half a bottle of shearer's glue into the bag and then inflated it and hung it up for a few days. And Bob's uncle, it seems to be holding now. It's just leaking a little bit now. But yeah, if you're ever in a bind, get yourself to your local rural supplies place and just get some shearer's emery glue and you'll be right.
That's like the most sort of Aussie conclusion to this little interview, I think, isn't it? And I do love your down to earthness as well. It's just fantastic, and you've carved out such an interesting career playing the pipes, and real pleasure actually, Nick. And I'm so glad to have met you. And I think everyone here, by the looks of them, has actually had just a wonderful time seeing you, hearing you play, and getting a bit of the magic dust we're looking for. Bit of inspiration to get back out there and get the pipes going at the session. That's my goal. I've got maintenance problems as well, but they're going to be fixed soon once I get to Alan's house.
And I once pulled a set of pipes out of my mate's cupboard. This fella I knew, he had a practice set that he had like sort of he bought with plans of learning, but he never got there. We were at a Christmas party, and he said, "Oh, I have a set of pipes in the cupboard. You grab them out and see what you reckon." And I strapped them on. I started playing, and then out of the valve from the bellows, a white-tailed spider came and crawled on my arm.
No.
I hope that doesn't happen to anyone after lockdown. Like if your pipes have been in the cupboard, just make sure you're checking for spiders.
Oh dear, that's
Australian.
yeah, only in
Problem.
Australia, isn't it? Like another, yeah, absolutely